Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. We're going to be doing a chat on the adrenal-gut connection. So I'm finishing up my book, The Thyroid Reset, and in that, one of the chapters is a chapter on the adrenal-thyroid connection. And we talk about thyroid function, adrenal function, but also connecting the gut to it because they're really, really important. So number one is the gut is where all the nutrients come and get absorbed. So it's very important. If you don't get the B vitamins and the zinc and the fatty acids and the amino acids, this is vitally important because the bottleneck is your gut. So number one, even if you have a great diet, you're eating a lot of nutrient-dense foods, we have to be able to break down those foods and we have to be able to absorb those foods. So hydrochloric acid, enzymes, bile salts, vitally important. If we have a lot of inflammation in our gut, it's inflamed. We have gastritis, we have irritation, we have gut permeability from other underlying infections, SIBO, fungal overgrowth, parasites, h.pylori. These are going to create stressors in the intestinal tract and it's going to make it harder to absorb nutrients. So of course we want those key nutrients, but we got to absorb it in the gut. Number two, if our immune system is overreactive, right? We have high amounts of IgA, our MALT and our GALT, the lymphocytes in our intestinal tract, right? The MALT is in the stomach, the mucosal associated lymphoid tissue. The GALT is in the stomach, gastric associated lymphoid tissue, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue is in the small intestine. Either way, they're immune cells, lymphoid cells in those areas. If our immune system is upregulated, because of food, because of silly things in our digestive tract, that's going to suck up a lot of energy and a lot of resources. So we have to calm down the gut. Cortisol is a major anti-inflammatory hormone that we use to kind of calm things down. Now, cortisol used too much and too stimulating can actually break tissue down. So chronic stress, we may know it also with chronic cortisone or prednisone injections, those can also break tissues and tendon down. That's why doctors say, hey, after one or two, we can't really do it anymore because we're going to cause more harm than good. So we have our natural cortisone in the form of cortisol that our body and our adrenals make to deal with inflammation, which is helpful. But a lot of people, their anti-inflammatory pathways are shot, right? They have HPA axis issues. They have hormone dysregulation. A lot of women, they're estrogen dominant, meaning their progesterone's lower. And guess where progesterone goes to make? Well, if your progesterone's low, more than likely you're under chronic stress. The progesterone's a building block. It's one step upstream of cortisol. So your progesterone, when stressed, will go downstream into cortisol. So chronic stress will drive estrogen dominance. And what we'll a lot of times see is low hormones across the board, but we'll see that estrogen ratio still a little bit higher than progesterone. That's really important. We live in an antibiotic generation. Like you have a cold, boom, antibiotic. So when someone has a gut issue, what's the first thing? We got to kill it. We got to get it, right? But no, we should actually work on getting the inflammation under control, calming down the immune system, working on supporting and nourishing the adrenals. If there's a thyroid issue or an autoimmune flare, calming down the thyroid, working on that estrogen balance issues so we can have good hormone balance if you're a female. And of course, the adrenals are just getting the adrenals dialed in will also help the men because that'll help the testosterone trickle downstream as well. So that sets the foundation. Then we can come in there and really work on adequately addressing the gut. Whether it's my 6R program, we remove the bad foods. And there's different diets we strategize, whether it's autoimmune or low FODMAP or low histamine or low salicylate or just a general paleo template. These are all, foundational strategies. Then we work on the digestive nutrients. The second R is going to be replace enzymes, acids, bile salts, very helpful. If we can't digest our foods, guess what? They're going to sit, they're going to rot, they're going to putrefy, they're going to ferment. That's going to be a lot of problems and you'll get gassy and bloated and you won't be able to access those nutrients ideally. Third R is going to be the repair. That's the repairing, the soothing, the healing, the soothing nutrients, the calming nutrients. The adrenals also help with repair because the adrenals calm down the inflammation through healthy levels of cortisol. Fourth R is where we remove the infections. We go after and we target whether it's H. pylori or a fungal overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth or a parasite. We target through that fourth R, which is the second remove, right? The first remove is remove the bad foods. The second remove is the fourth R, which is going to be remove the infections. And then fifth R, we work on repopulation, reinoculation of good bacteria, which helps the immune system. It's also very anti-inflammatory. Probiotics can be very anti-inflammatory, and they can also crowd out critters that may be hanging out as well. 6 hours retesting, because sometimes there's a partner or a spouse that could be passing infections back and forth. Some infections are burrowed deeper into the gut lining, so it's nice to know that. So if there's another infection that comes out, we may have another infection come back positive while the previous infection's gone. So there could be a layer of infections that are present. We call this crypt hyperplasia. So it's good to keep us in the back of our mind as we go through and treat patients and work on getting to the root cause. All right, so excellent. If you guys enjoyed this content and you want to reach out to myself or my staff and colleagues, click down below. There'll be a link for you as well. Again, I see patients worldwide. Also, this content is available for you all the time. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and then the bell next to it so you get notifications, and smash that like button. Really appreciate it. It really helps the YouTube algorithm to get the word out. All right, I'm going to open this up for a live Q&A now. Okay, my husband started to use a sit and stand desk and his ankles and legs are swelling. Any advice? Hard to say. It just depends. I mean, does activity in general cause his legs to swell? If not, we'd be looking at inflammation in the gut, and or thyroid could be a big one. I always get heartburn when I drink coffee. I have a tendency for acid reflux. Is it necessary to refrain from coffee entirely? It depends. Is coffee the only thing? There could be an allergen in the coffee. It could be maybe the quality of coffee, if it's not organic, or if it's loaded with mycotoxins. So I would try drinking a higher quality coffee, maybe even pause for a week or two and just come back to it. Get your diet clean first. Maybe if the guts calm down, you'll be able to add it back in. It just depends. I don't know what the whole dietary plan looks like. So get the diet better, and then you may be able to tolerate it. Why do you have at your store? What do you have at your store to encourage stomach emptying? So the first thing you could do is HCl and enzymes will help. That's the first thing. The second thing is ginger. Really good high quality ginger tea is excellent. The third thing is, if you need bowel motility support, I would add in the oxy powder. So if you go into my store, you'll see oxy powder there. That's helpful for just motility. But if we're talking more gastroparesis stuff, the bitters, the HCl, the enzymes will be helpful. Are there negative effects to getting a colonic, and is it beneficial? I mean, colonics I don't think are necessary unless someone's really backed up. My concern is with a colonic, you're going to be disrupting electrolyte reabsorption in the colon. That's my big concern. If you need it to really move an impacted bowel, fine. But if not, I don't want to disrupt the nutrient reabsorption of electrolytes. That's my big concern. So I tend to be a little bit more biased against it. That's just kind of my gut intuition. But for some people who are really backed up and need to move that, fecal material that's stuck, that could be helpful. Friend is stuck in asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, antibiotic, parasite challenge cycle for 2 years. What test to start with to try to figure out what's really going on? So I would definitely get an adrenal test. I'd look at all the hormones, adrenal hormones, get the diet and the foundational digestive support kind of dialed in. And then from there, once we set the foundation, I would kind of line all the other stressors up on a priority list and prioritize them accordingly, whether it's mold or parasites or infections, but I'd work on getting the foundation under control. If people who don't have the foundation under control just go into that long laundry list, man, they get overwhelmed and they feel terrible. So you really got to get things prioritized. I'm finding success on a low sulfur diet, maybe due to hydrogen sulfide, SIBO, but one thing I had to give up was betaine HCl. Do you know a suitable low sulfur replacement? So I'm just trying to think here. Is betaine really high in sulfur? I mean, if it is, you could try another kind of acid, maybe like a lemon juice, which is like more citric acid, or you could do ACV, or just lean higher on enzymes too, or even some bitters. But I would try HCl personally, as long as you're not symptomatic with it. I would try. If not, I would lean on another kind of acid, and I would lean on more enzymes. And then with the hydrogen sulfide SIBO, is the low sulfur diet that big of a deal? I mean, I know like some of the sulfur-rich veggies are very high in FODMAP. So is it a sulfur thing or a FODMAP thing? Have you fretted that out? I'd want to know if you're really clear, is it sulfur or is it fermentable carbohydrates? What infections can you get false negative on a GI map test? So false negative. So they're negative, but they're really positive, is what you're saying. Candida is potentially one because it's hard to pick up, right, on a test. I like doing the organic acid to look at the diarabinitol. That's a really good urinary marker to pick it up. And then outside of that, it's always possible, right? It's always possible. That's why we use good clearing herbs to have a good overlap. With the DNA technology, it's going to be higher likelihood you're going to have a false positive than a false negative because the DNA is so sensitive, right? And then outside of that, on the organic acid, we'll also look at other kinds of bacteria, but I can't give you specific like, oh, this infection or that infection. But you're going to have the best chance of picking it up on a GI map DNA test. Is it true that vitamin C or ascorbic acid and vitamin C lower copper in the body? Usually it's zinc. Usually zinc lowers copper in the body. It's possible vitamin C could, but the typical corollary mineral with zinc is copper, just like sodium is potassium. Calcium is magnesium. Full dialed in, take a few basic steps. What general tests would you recommend to get a good idea of basic health? So the ones I already mentioned. So a good quality Dutch hormone panel. If you're a female, obviously do it during the right time of the month. Cycling time, day 20 or so. If a cycle's around 28, 30 days, run an organic acid, chronic, good stool testing. Look at all those things to be helpful. Maybe even thyroid and a comprehensive blood panel. I'm trying NAC right now, but it gives me brain fog. Any reasons why? Could be a detox issue. You may want to ease into it better, slower. Seems like sulfur was a big part of my puzzle. FODMAP diet didn't help that much. When you say bitters, what exactly do you mean? Ginger, gentian, chamomile. These are all bitters. Type in Swedish bitters and you'll see it. Also, did you watch Rhonda Patrick podcast on Joe Rogan in the past few days? I have not watched it recently. What was the take home? Let me know. Looking to book a session with you beforehand, but other tests we can order ahead of time to get back on track. So I would just do a Dutch complete. Do a Dutch complete and time it up with your cycle. That's the first thing. Everything else doesn't really come till later on. That'd be the first test I'd recommend to kind of get you going. Awesome, guys. Any other questions, feel free and let me know. I really need a haircut. It's been like 3.5 months, so I'm going to see if I can slide into like a Supercuts or something like that today and get everything trimmed up. Wow. Unbelievable. All right, guys, phenomenal chatting with you. Have a great weekend. Put your comments down below. Sharing is caring. Get it out there. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm available worldwide, right to your phone. Click down below. All right, guys, have an awesome day. Take care. Bye now.